Good morning, everyone. This morning I got a really great comment on the channel, and it was about kayak fit. And it was asking questions like, what if my knees don't bend enough to get into a kayak the way you do? What if I can't make the cockpit of the kayak fit me well enough? What if I don't have the core strength to use a low profile seat like you recommend, Brett? And those are all great questions. We come in all shapes and sizes and all different levels of ability. And there's no right answer to any of these, but I'm going to do my best to answer those questions and how to work towards those things right now. Let's go. Okay, so fit issues with kayaks. As I said, we come in all shapes and sizes. Sorry, there's a little road noise here. I'm in the Outer Banks and it is beautiful, and this is our one day of sun. And it's nice and quiet here, except I'm by the road and the water. So, as I said, we come in all shapes and sizes, and there are issues with boat fit, particularly if you want a more advanced paddle experience, meaning you don't want to sit on top and you don't want a recreational kayak. And I'm not picking on those boats, but they don't perform as well because they're shorter and wider, and in most cases heavier. You want the better performance of a long, skinny touring kayak, but you don't fit well in a long, skinny touring kayak, or you don't bend well enough to get into a long, skinny touring kayak. There are some things that you can work on. The first problem is understanding fit, right? And I've talked about this before, but we're going to do it again. And so right now, sitting in my boat, even on land, I've got 5 points of contact. My feet, my thighs are right in here, and then my butt. The small of my back is barely pressed into the seat back, so that doesn't count. So 1, 2, 4, butt is 5. The first thing to understand is that I, as you can see, don't have an amazingly tight fit in this boat. I am a smaller paddler. I'm 5'7". I have narrow hips. I have shortish legs. I have added padding to the undersides really to make it more comfortable. You can add a ton of padding. Some people will add padding down by their hips so the boat fits really snugly, and you can do that. It's, for me, more about comfort. As long as I can get the boat to do what I want, which is rock like this when I rock like this, then I'm happy with the fit. My thing is long distance, and so I don't want to be squeezed into the boat because I like to move around a little bit and things like that. So if you're too small, you can always add more space. That is a good problem to have, because I have about a foot of space between my foot pegs and the bulkhead, which means that's a good place for me to throw my VHF radio, my first aid kit, an extra water bladder, things like that. So that gives me a good options in terms of long distance and more space. This boat has a lot of space anyway, but I do utilize that space just because it's convenient and accessible. But suppose you are too big to fit in this boat. There is no easy answer to that. I can't make your boat bigger. But it illustrates why it's important to, if not test paddle a boat, which is frequently hard to do, at least sit in a boat to make sure that you are comfortable with the fit. If you get in the boat and the boat is already tight, as long as you don't get bigger, that's fine, because remember, I would have been adding a bunch of padding to make the boat fit me tight anyway. So try on a boat, at least try on a boat, if not test paddle a boat. But I know it's hard to test paddle a boat. One of the things about REI that is nice is if you order a boat from them and you don't like the fit, you can return it. That's a satisfaction issue. So that's an easy fix in that sense. But sit in boats to test paddle them. If you are too big, you should do that regardless. But if you're worried about fit, that you're going to be too big for the boat, that's a good thing to do. Okay, now you've seen me talk about this a million times, is posture. As I'm sitting in the boat, my legs are going forward, my butt is in the seat right here, my back is nice and straight, and I can paddle my boat, right? One of the issues that I see with paddlers is that they don't have the core strength to sit like this for a long period of time. And so the question that I got is, what can I do? Can I make the seat bigger until I get to a point where I can sit like this for a long time? And one of the things that you can do is add a Crazy Creek camp chair, which will fold right in here and add back support for you. The problem with that is it won't help you build that core strength. So here's what you can do. So this is pretty much how I was sitting in that boat, right? My feet are on foot pegs, my thighs are bent and in pads, my back is nice and straight, and I can paddle. So what I want you to do is sit in this position at night for 10 minutes. Watch TV, have a cup of coffee, whatever. And then the next night, do it for 11 minutes. And then the next night, do it for 12 minutes. And work towards having that core strength. I should point out that I do a ton of core exercises to keep my core strong and make sure that I can sit like that all day long. And the older I get, the more work I have to do to maintain that core strength. If I take a little bit of time off, I feel like I immediately lose that core strength and have to then build back. So it's just easier for me to do it all the time. I would also say when I get a student who is in that situation, I generally hand them off to a personal trainer. I have a personal trainer that I work with who is wonderful and does video-based stuff to help people work through core strength and mobility issues, because mobility is a big part of that as well. We're going to talk about getting in and out of the boat in just a second. So talk to a personal trainer, talk to your doctor about good ways to build that strength. We're doing a physical thing, so we need to work to build those muscles and that mobility so that we can do that physical thing. Which brings us to getting in and out of your kayak. So the way that I just did it is really the way that I tell people to do it. Straddle the boat, lower your bottom into the seat, bring your legs in. That is easy for me to do. I have short legs, I'm relatively flexible, but if you have long legs, you can't do that. If you don't have good flexibility, you can't do that. I will say it is harder to get into your kayak on hard ground like this than it is in 6 inches of water with the tail on the sand and the nose in the water, where the boat is floating. You got a little bit more standing height. It's a little bit easier to get into the boat, but if you can do it this way on land, you can totally do it in the water. So, but what if you can't bend that way to get into the boat? What I tell people is, instead of putting their bottom in the seat first, put your bottom on the back deck. So let's go there. So now I'm sitting on the back deck, just behind my seat itself. The boat is plenty strong there. It will wobble back and forth a bit just because the shape of the hull, but it's not going to roll over, right? So just be careful. If you want to lean it one way, it won't go anywhere. And then slide your legs in, and then slide yourself forward. It's actually harder for me to do it that way because I don't do it that way. And you can do it the other way in reverse. So to get out, slide up here, legs here, standing, okay? The other thing that I would say is practice that so you can do it relatively quickly, because I feel like the most dangerous place that we are in kayaking is the surf zone. Even if those waves are only 6 inches high, that's a lot of water, and the boat can get washed away relatively quickly, taking you with it. I wouldn't roll out of the boat because the boat's going to fill with water. You could end up, hitting your head on the beach, hitting your head on rocks. I don't want you doing that. I want a controlled, slow movement into and out of the boat. Slow is smooth and smooth is fast. So that's a good way to get into the boat. And another thing that I talk about, I can't really demo it here, but on the paddle float, I do it with my knees, with my legs going this way, But it was pointed out to me that if I had really long legs, that would be really hard to do, and it would be better with my legs starting there, with get my chest ending up on the back deck and then sliding around. It's further to slide, but if you have really long legs, it's an easier way to do it. Okay, so that is some adaptations to the way that we normally do things, or the way that I normally do things in my kayak, to help you get your boat into the water, out of the water, get you comfortable in your boat. I think those are all great questions. If you have specific questions about how I would do something, send me an email, brett@adventureotaku.com. I'm happy to have a conversation with you about that, or really about anything. My audience is small enough that I can have nice interactions with people. You know, I'm sneaking up on 1,500 followers is pretty manageable. So feel free to do that. I want you to get on the water. I want you to be having fun. I want you to be doing it safely. And as I said, if the most dangerous place is the surf zone where we're getting in and out, if you can't get through there, you're not going to have a good time on the water. If this stuff is working out for you, do me a favor, hit like, hit subscribe. You can buy me a cup of coffee on Coffee, link down below. Otherwise, I'll see you on the water. No, this is the part where I go out and realize as soon as I sit down, I have to pee. Fortunately, I've got the Adventure Otaku patented pee bottle.